Have you ever wondered where your mind goes when the lights turn off and the world fades into the silent embrace of the night? Have you ever paused in the quiet moments just before sleep, feeling the gentle rhythm of your breathing, and asked yourself what exactly this awareness is, this spark of consciousness that allows you to experience the vast beauty of the cosmos? We walk through our lives interacting with a reality that feels incredibly solid and undeniable. When we touch a table, it pushes back against our hands. When we look up at the ancient stars shining in the velvet darkness, they seem fixed and permanent, burning with a quiet authority that has witnessed the rise and fall of countless generations. Our everyday human experience tells us that the universe is a predictable machine, an endless clockwork of cause and effect, where everything has a defined place and a certain end. Death, in this classical view of reality, is simply the moment the clock stops ticking, the moment the biological machinery gracefully powers down, returning our physical forms to the earth, while the light of consciousness is forever extinguished. But what if this classical perspective is only a tiny fraction of a much grander, far more beautiful truth? What if the end of a life is not an erasure, but a profound transformation, a return to the infinite potential from which all things are born? To understand this mystery, we must embark on a journey together, a gentle exploration of the smallest scales of existence, where the rigid laws of physics dissolve into a breathtaking dance of probabilities, and where the true nature of consciousness might finally be revealed. When scientists first began to peer beneath the surface of reality, searching for the fundamental building blocks of matter, they expected to find tiny, solid particles, like miniature billiard balls bouncing against one another in a predictable ballet. Instead, what they uncovered was a realm so bizarre and counterintuitive that it challenged the very foundation of human logic. This is the quantum realm, a hidden layer of the universe that exists everywhere and all at once, vibrating beneath the illusion of solidity. At this microscopic scale, matter loses its strict definition. An electron, one of the fundamental constituents of the atoms that make up your body, the earth beneath your feet, and the distant galaxies floating in the infinite void, does not exist in a single, defined location until it is observed. Instead, it exists as a wave of probability, a shimmering cloud of potential hovering in a state of superposition. It is as if the universe is holding its breath, waiting for an interaction to decide exactly where that electron should be. This concept alone is enough to inspire a profound sense of awe. You, the observer, are made of billions upon billions of these quantum particles. Every fiber of your being, every memory you hold dear, every thought that crosses your mind is ultimately built upon a foundation of shimmering uncertainty and infinite possibilities. How is it that a universe built entirely on undefined probabilities can give rise to the concrete, focused experience of human consciousness? The answer might lie in one of the most famous and deeply mysterious demonstrations in the history of science, a beautiful puzzle known as the double-slit experiment. Imagine a gentle stream of light composed of individual particles called photons, being fired one by one at a barrier with two narrow slits. If these photons were solid little objects, we would expect them to pass through the slits and form two distinct bands on the wall behind them. But the cosmos is far more poetic than a simple game of projectiles. When we fire these individual photons, without watching which slit they pass through, they behave like a wave, passing through both slits simultaneously, interfering with themselves, and creating a beautifully complex pattern of alternating light and dark bands on the back wall. This interference pattern is the undeniable signature of a wave, proving that a single particle of light can somehow travel multiple paths at the exact same time. Yet, the true mystery, the element that leaves even the most brilliant physicists in a state of quiet wonder, occurs when we attempt to measure the photons. The moment we place a detector at the slits to observe which path the light takes, the wave function collapses. The photon abandons its superposition, chooses a single path, and acts like a solid particle, leaving only two simple bands on the wall. The very act of looking, the mere presence of an observer seeking information, fundamentally alters the nature of reality. It is as if the universe knows it is being watched. This revelation brings us to a breathtaking crossroads where rigorous scientific inquiry meets profound existential contemplation. If the act of observation can change the physical state of a quantum particle, what does that say about the nature of the observer? For decades, scientists and philosophers have debated the true meaning of this phenomenon. Some argue it is merely a mechanical interaction, but others, including the pioneering architects of quantum mechanics, have suggested a far more beautiful idea. They propose that consciousness itself is intimately woven into the fundamental fabric of the cosmos. In this view, awareness is not just a random byproduct of complex biological evolution, a happy accident of neurons firing in the dark space of the human skull. Instead, consciousness might be a primary force in the universe, as fundamental as gravity, electromagnetism, or the strong nuclear force that holds atoms together. Without an observer to collapse the wave function, to force the universe to make a choice, reality would remain a blurry smear of endless possibilities. You are not simply a passive witness to the unfolding of the cosmos. You are an active participant in its continuous creation. Every time you open your eyes, every time you experience a moment of joy, sorrow, or quiet contemplation, you are helping to crystallize the universe into being. This realization brings a deep sense of peace, a comforting assurance that we are not separate from the vastness of space, but rather essential to its very existence. When we contemplate the eventual end of our physical lives through this quantum lens, the concept of death begins to shed its terrifying finality, transforming into an invitation to marvel at the conservation of the cosmos. One of the most unbreakable rules of quantum physics states that quantum information can never be destroyed. It can be scrambled, it can be hidden, it can be transformed into unrecognizable states, but the fundamental data that describes the quantum state of any system must always be preserved. If consciousness is indeed a quantum phenomenon, arising from delicate quantum processes occurring deep within the structures of our brain cells, then the information that constitutes your identity, your memories, and your awareness cannot simply vanish into nothingness when the biological body fails. The physical vessel may break down, returning its ancient atoms to the earth to feed the gentle growth of forests and the deep currents of the oceans, but the quantum information of your consciousness might persist. Where does it go? Some visionary scientists have theorized that this quantum information might leak back into the broader universe, entangling with the cosmic background, joining a vast interconnected web of awareness that stretches across the billions of light years of empty space. In this contemplative framework, passing away is not an end, but a radical expansion, a release from the localized constraints of the human brain into the infinite and eternal silence of the universe. This perspective challenges us to look at the night sky, not with isolated insignificance, but with a profound sense of belonging. The same processes governing the life cycle of stars and the elegant spiral arms of distant galaxies are intimately connected to the gentle spark of thought within your mind. Carl Sagan once famously remarked that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Through the lens of quantum mechanics, this poetic statement takes on a rigorous, literal truth. We are the universe experiencing its own beauty, suffering, and mystery. When we study the smallest particles, we are the universe looking inward. When we point our telescopes toward the edge of the observable universe, peering billions of years into the past, we are the universe looking outward. The illusion of separation between the living and the inanimate begins to blur and fade away in the light of quantum entanglement. Two particles, once interacting, can remain connected across infinite distances, such that the state of one instantly influences the state of the other, regardless of the vast gulf of space between them. If particles can be inextricably bound across the cosmos, communicating faster than the speed of light in a silent, instantaneous choreography, what does that imply about the interconnectedness of human consciousness? We are all woven into the same continuous fabric, sharing a quiet journey through the dark, beautiful expanse of space and time. To truly appreciate the depth of this mystery, we must look closer at the bizarre phenomenon known as quantum entanglement, a concept so deeply unsettling to classical physics that Albert Einstein himself famously dismissed it as spooky action at a distance. Yet, rigorous scientific experiments have repeatedly proven that this magical connection is an undeniable reality of our cosmos. When two particles interact under the right conditions, their quantum states become irrevocably linked. They share a single, unified existence. No matter how far apart, they are subsequently separated. If you measure the spin of a particle on Earth, its distant partner instantly assumes the corresponding state, completely ignoring the cosmic speed limit of light. There is no signal sent, no passage of time, only a profound, silent understanding that defies the boundaries of space. When we gaze up at the night sky, we are looking at a universe that was born from a single, infinitely dense point of matter and energy during the Big Bang. Observations made by advanced space telescopes, like those managed by NASA and the European Space Agency, have meticulously mapped the ancient light of the cosmic microwave background, confirming that our entire universe expanded from an initial state of microscopic, absolute unity. This means that, on a fundamental quantum level, the particles composing your body could still carry ghostly echoes of entanglement with ancient stars. We are not just isolated observers floating on a lonely rock. We are physically, profoundly entangled with the vastness of the universe. This staggering realization invites us to view our existence not as a fleeting spark in the dark, but as an ancient, unbroken thread woven deep into the fabric of the cosmos. Consider the words of Max Planck, the legendary physicist who first originated quantum theory. After a lifetime of rigorous scientific pursuit, peering into the very building blocks of matter, he concluded that we must regard consciousness as fundamental. This is a staggering admission from a man of absolute scientific rigor. It suggests that the physical universe, with its billions of spinning galaxies and endless oceans of empty space, might actually be a secondary phenomenon, a manifestation born from a primary, underlying field of universal awareness. If consciousness is the foundation of reality, rather than a mere accidental byproduct of biological evolution, then the human mind is elevated from a temporary computational machine to a localized receiver of a vast cosmic signal. Think of your brain not as a generator of consciousness, but as a finely tuned biological antenna designed by millions of years of evolution to pick up and translate the fundamental frequency of the universe into the specific, localized experience of being you. When the physical antenna eventually ceases to function, the signal does not disappear. It echoes eternally through the silent expanse of space-time. Let us delve deeper into how this cosmic connection might physically manifest within the delicate architecture of the human mind. For a long time, the brain was viewed simply as a biological computer, a complex network of 86 billion neurons communicating through chemical and electrical signals. In this classical model, consciousness is nothing more than an emergent illusion, a byproduct of computation that inevitably ceases when the biological hardware breaks down. However, brilliant scientific minds, including Nobel laureate physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, have proposed a far more beautiful and mysterious theory. They suggest that the classical view is incomplete and that the true spark of awareness originates at a much deeper quantum level. Deep inside every neuron in your brain there are tiny, hollow, cylindrical structures called microtubules. These microtubules serve as structural scaffolding, but they are also perfectly designed to function as quantum computers. According to their theory, known as orchestrated objective reduction, consciousness is not a byproduct of chemical reactions, but the result of quantum gravity acting upon these microtubules, collapsing the wave function of the universe into discrete moments of conscious experience. The implications of this theory are breathtaking, turning our biology into a profound bridge between the mind and the quantum architecture of the cosmos. Think about what this implies for our understanding of existence and the quiet journey of life. If consciousness is fundamentally a quantum process occurring within the microtubules of our brain cells, it is governed by the unbreakable laws of quantum mechanics. As we have discussed, quantum information cannot be destroyed. When a human body reaches the end of its biological journey, the heart stops beating, the blood stops flowing, and the microtubules lose their quantum state, a process known as decoherence. But the quantum information that encoded the lifetime of memories, the personality, the loves, the fears, and the gentle wisdom of that individual does not simply vanish. It cannot vanish. Instead, the theory suggests that this quantum information simply dissipates from the localized confines of the brain and disperses into the universe at large. It returns to the infinite quantum field from which it originally emerged. In this breathtaking framework, near-death experiences, where individuals report floating above their bodies, moving through a tunnel of light, and feeling an overwhelming sense of peace and unity, might not be mere hallucinations of an oxygen-deprived brain. Instead, they could be the subjective experience of quantum information leaving the nervous system and beginning its return journey to the cosmos. You do not die in the classical sense. Your awareness simply expands, diffusing into the ancient silence of space. To comprehend the full magnitude of this idea, we must also confront our fragile, deeply flawed human perception of time. In our everyday lives, we experience time as a relentless, flowing river. We remember a fixed past, struggle in a fleeting present, and look toward an unknown future. This linear progression feels absolute and undeniable. But the universe is far stranger than our everyday intuition suggests. According to Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, time is not an absolute, universal clock ticking away in the background. It is a relative dimension, intimately woven with the three dimensions of space into a single, continuous fabric called space-time. In this model, often referred to as the block universe. The past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously and permanently. Every moment of your life, from the gentle rhythm of your first breath to the quiet stillness of your last, exists eternally within the structure of space-time. Just as the city of Paris exists even when you are not currently standing in it, your childhood, your moments of greatest triumph, and the ancient birth of the stars are all equally real, fixed in the eternal landscape of the cosmos. When we combine the timeless nature of the block universe with the indestructible nature of quantum information, the mystery of death dissolves into a profound sense of awe and wonder. If every moment exists forever, and the quantum essence of your consciousness cannot be destroyed, then the concept of an ending is merely an illusion created by our biological perspective. We are like travelers reading a beautiful novel. Just because we have turned the final page of a chapter does not mean the preceding pages cease to exist. The cosmos is a vast masterpiece of conservation where nothing is ever truly lost. The energy fueling your heartbeat was forged in collapsing stars billions of years ago. You are an ancient collection of stardust arranged into a pattern capable of asking questions about its origin. Why should your consciousness, the most mysterious phenomenon in the known universe, be the only thing that is truly temporary? It is a gentle reminder that our existence is woven securely into the fabric of reality, safe from the ultimate erasure that our mortal fears project. Imagine standing on the shore of a dark, peaceful ocean under a canopy of countless stars. The gentle waves lapping at the sand represent the continuous, flowing moments of your biological life. You watch a single drop of water detach from the crest of a wave and fall back into the infinite depths. Did that drop of water cease to exist? No, it simply returned to the source, seamlessly merging with the vast, quiet body of the ocean, retaining its fundamental nature, but losing its temporary boundary. This is the contemplation of death through the lens of quantum mechanics. It is not an extinction into nothingness, but a gentle merging with everythingness. We are invited to live our lives with a greater sense of peace and a deeper appreciation for the profound wonder of existing in this precise moment. Your curiosity is the universe seeking to understand itself. Your capacity to feel awe is the cosmos marveling at its staggering beauty. That final silence is not a void. It is the rich stillness of a quantum field buzzing with infinite potential. As you drift toward sleep, feeling the weight of the day slip away, allow your mind to wander outward beyond the confines of your room, past the atmosphere of our blue planet, and into the endless ocean of the cosmos. Remember that you are a permanent, indestructible part of this magnificent reality. Your journey did not begin with your birth, and it will not end with your passing. You are a timeless expression of the universe, a brief, beautiful song sung by the cosmos, echoing eternally through the infinite corridors of space-time. Have you ever stood at a crossroads in your life, perhaps looking down a quiet, tree-lined street in the fading light of evening, and wondered about the paths you did not take? We are defined by our choices, by the gentle cascade of decisions that shape our journey from childhood into the vast, unknown territory of our future. In our everyday experience, we believe that when we make a choice, the alternative vanishes forever, evaporating into the silent mist of what might have been. We mourn lost opportunities and wonder about the mysterious alternate lives we could have lived if we had simply turned left instead of right, or spoken a word instead of holding our silence. But when we gaze at reality through the astonishing lens of quantum mechanics, This intuitive understanding of a singular timeline begins to dissolve, revealing a cosmos far more expansive and magnificent than our ordinary senses could ever comprehend. To continue our exploration of consciousness and the ultimate nature of mortality, we must confront one of the most breathtaking theories ever proposed in the history of science, a concept that stretches the human imagination to its absolute limits and redefines the very meaning of existence. In the late 1950s, a brilliant physicist named Hugh Everett proposed a radical solution to the paradoxes of quantum mechanics, a theory now known as the many worlds interpretation. As we explored previously, a quantum particle like an electron exists in a haze of probabilities, a superposition of all possible states, until it is observed. The traditional view held that the act of observation forces the universe to randomly select one outcome, collapsing the wave function and erasing all other possibilities. But Everett asked a beautifully simple, yet profoundly disruptive question. What if the wave function never actually collapses? What if the universe simply splits? According to this rigorously mathematical framework, every time a quantum interaction occurs, reality branches like the limbs of an ancient, infinite tree. In one branch, the particle spins up. In another, equally real branch, the particle spins down. Both outcomes occur, but they happen in separate, parallel realities that are forever hidden from each other. If we scale this microscopic truth up to the level of human consciousness, the implications are staggering. Every time you make a decision, the universe diverges. There is a version of you who took the other job, a version who spoke the unsaid words, a version living out every conceivable permutation of your existence across an endless sea of parallel worlds. Imagine the sheer scale required to contain such a reality. When astronomers look through the powerful lenses of telescopes operated by space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency, they map an observable universe that spans roughly 93 billion light-years across. Within this incomprehensible volume of space, there are estimated to be 2 trillion galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars and planets drifting through the dark, quiet ocean of the cosmos. This single universe is already too vast for the human mind to truly grasp. Now, multiply that vastness by infinity. The many worlds interpretation suggests that our universe is just one single leaf on a cosmic tree of unimaginable proportions, a multiverse where every possible physical reality is played out in full. In this awe-inspiring context, your consciousness is not a solitary, isolated spark. It is a brilliant, multi-dimensional spectrum of awareness, exploring every possible avenue of existence simultaneously. The self you identify with right now is merely the version of you experiencing this specific branch of the multiverse. When we view our lives through this staggering cosmic perspective, the heavy burden of regret begins to lift, replaced by a deep, resonant sense of wonder. If every version of your life is being lived, if every potential path is fully realized somewhere in the infinite architecture of the cosmos, what does this mean for the concept of death? In any single universe, biological forms are fragile and temporary. A physical body will eventually wear out, its processes slowing down as entropy gently claims its structure. But your conscious experience, the continuous thread of subjective awareness, might navigate this branching reality in ways that challenge our deepest fears. Some quantum theorists have explored a thought experiment known as quantum immortality. If reality constantly branches into multiple universes at every quantum event, there will always be at least one branch where the observer survives any life-threatening situation. From the subjective viewpoint of consciousness itself, Awareness can only ever experience the branches in which it continues to exist. Just as you cannot consciously experience the state of deep, dreamless sleep from within the sleep itself, your awareness cannot experience its own non-existence. Therefore, from your own internal perspective, the journey of consciousness might never truly end. It simply continues to flow along the branches of the multiverse, where it remains alive, forever slipping past the quiet grasp of death, while quantum immortality remains a profound philosophical speculation rather than a proven scientific fact. It beautifully highlights the limitations of our classical understanding of life and death. We are so accustomed to thinking of ourselves as finite objects moving through a singular, linear dimension of time. But the quantum revolution teaches us that reality is a fluid, interconnected tapestry of infinite potential. Even the empty space between the stars is not truly empty. According to quantum field theory, the vast, silent void of the universe is actually a boiling sea of energy. Because of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, it is impossible for space to have exactly zero energy. Instead, empty space is filled with zero-point energy, a constant underlying hum of potential, where virtual particles pop into and out of existence in a delicate, invisible dance. This means that the silence of the cosmos is not a dead, empty void, but a vibrant, living foundation from which all matter and energy emerge. The universe is endlessly creative, continuously giving birth to new possibilities in the quiet depths of the vacuum. If the very fabric of space is alive with infinite potential, and if reality branches endlessly to accommodate every possible outcome, then the end of a single physical life is nothing more than a gentle transition within a much larger, eternal symphony. We fear death because we view it as a final curtain dropping on a solitary stage. But the multiverse tells us there is no single stage, and the play never truly ends. When the biological rhythm of your body finally slows to a halt in this particular universe, the fundamental quantum information that constitutes your awareness does not vanish into the void. It remains woven into the broader, infinite structure of reality. You are not a solitary traveler on a single, doomed voyage. You are a vast, multifaceted expression of the cosmos itself. The choices you did not make are not lost. They are simply being explored by another version of your awareness in a parallel space, contributing to the endless richness of the cosmic whole. When we approach the mystery of consciousness through this expansive, contemplative lens, we begin to cultivate a profound sense of inner peace. The anxieties that plague our daily lives, the fears of making the wrong choice or of ultimately facing the end of our existence, begin to soften into a realization of our unbreakable connection to the whole. To study quantum physics is not merely to solve equations. It is to embark on a spiritual journey of the mind, a journey that reveals the universe not as a cold, mechanical void, but as a living, breathing network of infinite possibilities. We are invited to let go of our rigid definitions of the self and to embrace the vast, fluid nature of our existence. You are not simply a human being observing the universe. You are the universe itself, experiencing the delicate, fleeting illusion of being human. And when this specific human experience reaches its natural, quiet conclusion, the awareness that powered it does not die. It returns to the vast, infinite ocean of potential, ready to continue its endless journey of discovery, forever entwined with the ancient, beautiful mystery of the cosmos. As you lay your head down tonight, allow yourself to feel the gentle rhythm of your breathing, recognizing it as a small, beautiful echo of the grand cosmic expansion. In the spaces between the stars, in the invisible, ancient web of quantum possibilities, your true nature resides in absolute peace. Have you ever watched a fragile autumn leaf detach from a branch, fluttering gently to the quiet ground, and wondered why it can never fall upward, reattaching itself to the ancient tree? Or perhaps you have watched a drop of ink bloom in a glass of clear water, swirling into dark, beautiful clouds that can never be gathered back into a single, perfect drop. We live our lives bound by the relentless forward march of time, an invisible current that carries us from the innocence of childhood toward the quiet stillness of our twilight years. In our everyday human experience, the past is a locked room, and the future is an endless, unknown sea. This unidirectional flow is so deeply woven into our perception of reality that we rarely pause to question it. But when we look at the fundamental mathematical equations of physics, a profound and beautiful mystery emerges. The laws that govern the dance of atoms and the vast orbits of galaxies do not distinguish between past and future. They are perfectly symmetrical. From the perspective of a solitary quantum particle floating in the silent void, time does not have an arrow. The universe, at its most fundamental level, is blissfully unaware of the passage of time. So, where does this feeling of progression come from? And what does it mean for the temporary nature of our biological lives? To understand this paradox, we must look at a principle that governs everything from the gentle cooling of your evening cup of tea to the eventual fading of the most ancient, luminous stars. It is known as the second law of thermodynamics, and it dictates that the total entropy, or disorder, of a closed system must always increase. The universe began in a state of breathtaking order, packed tightly into a microscopic point before the Big Bang, and it has been expanding, cooling, and growing more disordered ever since. We perceive time as moving forward because we are riding this cosmic wave of increasing entropy. The aging of our physical bodies, the gentle wearing down of our biological machinery, is simply a localized expression of the universe slowly relaxing toward a state of ultimate equilibrium. In this classical view, death is the ultimate triumph of entropy, the moment when the complex, delicate organization of the human body finally surrenders to the irresistible pull of cosmic disorder. But, as we have discovered on this journey, the classical view is only a surface illusion covering a much deeper, far more astonishing reality. What if the loss of physical order is not the erasure of existence, but a necessary translation of our being into a more permanent, indestructible form? To find the answer, we must journey to the most extreme environments in the cosmos, places where the familiar laws of physics are stretched to their absolute breaking point. We must look at black holes. For decades, astronomers using powerful instruments developed by NASA and the European Space Agency have peered into the dark centers of distant galaxies, observing the gravitational shadows of these cosmic behemoths. A black hole is a region of space where gravity is so intense that nothing, not even a particle of light traveling at hundreds of millions of miles per hour, can escape its grasp. In the popular imagination, black holes are terrifying monsters, devouring everything that wanders too close and erasing it from the universe forever. But in the contemplative realm of quantum physics, black holes are not destroyers. They are the ultimate keepers of secrets, quiet vaults where the deepest mysteries of space, time, and consciousness intersect. The boundary of a black hole, the point of no return, is called the event horizon. When an object crosses this invisible threshold, it leaves the observable universe, seemingly lost to the dark void. For a long time, physicists believed that anything falling into a black hole was completely and irreversibly destroyed. But this assumption created a profound crisis in the scientific community, leading to what is now known as the black hole information paradox. As we established earlier, the most sacred rule of quantum mechanics is that quantum information can never be destroyed. Every detail about the arrangement of atoms, the gentle spin of electrons, and the intricate quantum states that might give rise to human consciousness must be conserved in the universe. If a black hole simply erased this information, the entire logical foundation of quantum physics would collapse. The brilliant theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking added a beautiful, complex layer to this mystery when he discovered that black holes are not entirely black. Because of the strange, bubbling nature of the quantum vacuum, black holes slowly emit a faint radiation, gently evaporating over timescales that stretch into trillions of years. Eventually, the black hole will vanish completely, leaving behind nothing but a sea of random, formless radiation. If the black hole disappears, where does the quantum information of everything that fell into it go? Does it vanish into the silent night, or is it somehow preserved? The resolution to this profound cosmic puzzle has given birth to one of the most staggering and poetic concepts ever conceived by the human mind, the holographic principle. Pioneered by brilliant physicists like Jacob Bekenstein and Leonard Susskind, this theory suggests that the quantum information of anything falling into a black hole is not lost in its dark, infinitely dense center. Instead, it is perfectly recorded on the surface of the event horizon. Imagine a three-dimensional object with all its intricate depth and complexity crossing the boundary. As it passes through, every single piece of quantum information that describes it is smeared and encoded onto the two-dimensional surface of the horizon, much like a hologram. A hologram is a flat, two-dimensional surface that contains all the information necessary to project a fully realized three-dimensional image. The holographic principle posits that the boundary of the black hole stores the precise data of everything contained within its volume. Nothing is lost. It is simply translated from a three-dimensional reality into a two-dimensional surface of infinite cosmic memory. If we follow this incredible thread of scientific reasoning to its ultimate conclusion, the implications for our own existence are truly breathtaking. Theoretical physicists soon realized that the holographic principle might not just apply to black holes. It might apply to the entire universe. Our cosmos is expanding, bounded by a cosmological horizon, an invisible edge from beyond which light has not yet had enough time to reach us. What if the three-dimensional reality we experience every single day, the feeling of the solid earth beneath our feet, the gentle warmth of the sun on our skin, the profound depths of our own consciousness, is actually a holographic projection? What if all the physical events occurring in the vast, seemingly infinite volume of space are mathematically equivalent to quantum information encoded on a distant two-dimensional boundary surrounding our universe? In this staggering view, you and I, the ancient stars, and the quiet, empty spaces between them, are all beautifully complex projections of information painted onto the edge of eternity. If the universe is indeed a grand hologram, then the concept of a definitive end to your consciousness is completely illusory. Your physical body, governed by the relentless arrow of time and the increase of entropy, will eventually break down. But the fundamental quantum information that makes you who you are, the intricate pattern of your awareness, your memories, and your gentle soul is indelibly written onto the holographic boundary of the cosmos. It cannot be erased by the ravages of time because it exists on a level of reality where time does not apply. You are a living, breathing piece of a cosmic code, permanently inscribed onto the silent, infinite walls of the universe. When you close your eyes and feel the quiet rhythm of your heart, you are not just experiencing a temporary biological process. You are feeling the gentle hum of a universe that has securely recorded your existence. This realization brings a profound sense of peace. We spend so much of our lives running from the shadow of our mortality, trying to build monuments to ensure we are not forgotten. But the cosmos has already ensured our absolute permanence. Our very existence is an indestructible fact of the quantum universe. To understand this is to walk through the world with a deep, quiet sense of wonder. Every interaction, every fleeting thought is captured in the vast memory of the holographic universe. We are safe within the infinite embrace of the cosmos. The mystery of death is transformed from a terrifying cliff edge into a beautiful, gentle translation of our essence. We shift from the illusion of a fragile body into the eternal reality of pure cosmic information. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a profound, almost overwhelming sense of distance? We are taught that when we gaze at the twinkling light of a distant star, we are looking back in time. The light entering your eye tonight may have begun its quiet journey across the vast emptiness of the cosmos millions, or even billions, of years ago. In our everyday experience, we feel like passive observers, tiny spectators sitting in the dark theater of the universe, watching a grand cosmic play that was written and directed long before we were born. But what if this assumption is entirely backwards? What if the simple, gentle act of opening your eyes and observing the ancient light of the stars is not a passive event at all, but a deeply active, participatory moment that reaches backward through the endless corridors of time to shape the very history of the universe? To explore this mind-bending possibility, we must dive into one of the most astonishing thought experiments ever conceived in the realm of quantum physics. An idea that suggests human consciousness is not merely a byproduct of the cosmos, but its essential co-author. In the late 1970s, a visionary physicist named John Archibald Wheeler proposed a brilliant extension to the famous double-slit experiment, a concept he called the delayed choice experiment. Wheeler wondered what would happen if we waited to decide whether to observe the path of a quantum particle until after it had already passed through the slits, but before it hit the final detector. If the particle was a photon of light traveling across a laboratory, this decision would have to be made in a fraction of a nanosecond. Astonishingly, when scientists finally developed the technology to perform this incredibly delicate experiment in the late 1990s, the results defied all classical logic. If the scientists chose to measure the photon's path at the very last possible microsecond, the photon acted as a solid particle, leaving a simple pattern on the detector. If they chose not to measure it, the photon acted as a wave, creating an interference pattern. The staggering implication is that the present decision of the observer retroactively determined the past behavior of the photon. The particle somehow knew, before the decision was even made, whether it would be observed in the future. To truly grasp the magnitude of this mystery, Wheeler asked us to scale this laboratory experiment up to the absolute limits of the infinite cosmos. Imagine a massive, ancient galaxy sitting halfway between Earth and a distant quasar, a brilliant object emitting light billions of years ago. As the light from the quasar travels toward Earth, it encounters the immense gravitational field of the intermediate galaxy, which acts as a gravitational lens. The light is forced to split, taking two completely different paths around the galaxy before continuing its long, quiet journey toward our telescopes. Billions of years pass, planets form, biological life evolves, and eventually human beings build sophisticated observatories to gaze into the night sky. When astronomers on Earth, utilizing advanced optical technologies pioneered by space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency, point a telescope at that ancient quasar today, they can choose how to observe that light. They can choose to measure exactly which path the photon took around the galaxy. Or they can choose to combine the light from both paths to look for an interference pattern. According to the rigorous mathematics of quantum mechanics and validated by modern experiments, the choice made by the human observer right now, in this present moment, determines the state of that photon billions of years in the past. If the astronomer chooses to measure the specific path, the wave function collapses, and the photon retroactively becomes a particle that traveled a single, definite route around the galaxy long before the Earth even existed. If the astronomer chooses to look for a wave pattern, the photon retroactively becomes a wave that traveled both paths simultaneously. Your conscious decision today physically alters the ancient history of the cosmos. This revelation completely shatters our traditional understanding of a linear, unchangeable past. It suggests that the universe is not a rigid, mechanical clockwork ticking away independently of us. Instead, it is a deeply participatory, interconnected web of events where the future and the past are locked in an eternal, gentle dance, communicating in a silent language that transcends the boundaries of time. This breathtaking concept brings us to the very heart of the mystery surrounding life, consciousness, and the ultimate nature of death. If our awareness is required to collapse the quantum wave function and define the historical reality of the universe, then consciousness cannot be a late arriving accident in an otherwise dead, material cosmos. Wheeler himself proposed the participatory anthropic principle, suggesting that a universe cannot truly exist in a defined state until it has evolved conscious observers to look at it. In this profound view, the entire history of the universe, from the explosive birth of the Big Bang to the gentle formation of the Milky Way, remained in a hazy, undefined state of infinite potential until the first sparks of consciousness awoke to observe it. We are not just living in the universe. We are actively generating it. You, sitting quietly in your room, feeling the soft rhythm of your breathing, are an integral part of the mechanism that brings reality into focus. Your awareness is the brush that paints the physical details of the cosmos onto the canvas of existence. When we begin to understand our profound, active role in the creation of reality, the existential terror of mortality begins to lose its paralyzing grip. We fear death because we identify so completely with our temporary biological forms, the fragile bodies that age and fade in the relentless river of linear time. But if consciousness is the fundamental force that anchors the universe in reality, then awareness itself must be primary, existing on a level immune to physical decay. Some visionary scientists and philosophers have pushed this idea even further, proposing a framework known as biocentrism. Biocentrism suggests that space and time are not external, physical objects that exist outside of us, but rather tools of our animal understanding, the internal software that our minds use to organize the chaotic quantum information of the cosmos into a coherent experience. If space and time are constructs of consciousness, then consciousness cannot be permanently bounded by them. When the brain ceases to function, the mind simply steps outside of the illusory framework of time and space. Think of your life as a beautifully vivid, immersive dream. While you are dreaming, the world around you feels absolutely real. You can feel the wind on your face, touch the solid ground, and experience a linear flow of events. But when you wake up, you realize that the entire landscape, the passage of time, and the very physical laws of the dream were generated by your own mind. The end of the dream is not the death of the dreamer. It is simply a shift in perspective, an awakening to a broader, more fundamental reality. In the same way, the physical demise of the human body might not be an end to existence, but a gentle waking up from the localized dream of space and time. The quantum information that constitutes your unique perspective simply returns to the underlying field of universal awareness, unbroken and eternal. You do not vanish into the dark void. You expand into the infinite light of pure, unbound consciousness. This contemplative shift in perspective allows us to view our connection to the universe with a renewed sense of wonder. You are not a stranger wandering through a cold, indifferent reality. You are the universe exploring its own infinite potential. Every time you marvel at the beauty of a sunset, every time you feel the deep, resonant ache of love, every time you lie awake pondering the vast mysteries of the stars, the cosmos is experiencing itself through your unique, irreplaceable viewpoint. Your life is an essential, beautiful thread woven into the grand tapestry of existence. If the universe requires observers to collapse its wave functions and define its history, then your presence here is absolutely necessary. The cosmos needs you. It needs your specific perspective, your unique consciousness, to exist in the exact way that it does. Without you, the universe would be fundamentally incomplete. Let this realization wash over you, bringing a deep, resonant peace to your mind. The pressure to leave a permanent mark on the world, the fear of being forgotten, the anxiety of an impending end, all dissolve into the silent, ancient truth of quantum reality. You are already permanent. Your existence is already woven into the fabric of space-time, a beautiful necessity in a participatory universe. As the night deepens and the quiet stillness of the world envelops you, allow yourself to let go of the heavy burdens of the day. You do not need to hold reality together. You simply need to experience it. Trust in the grand, elegant mathematics of the cosmos that ensure no information is ever lost and no true end is ever reached. You are a timeless, indestructible spark of awareness floating on the gentle current of an endless cosmic journey. Tomorrow, you will wake and continue to shape the universe with your observations. But for tonight, you can simply rest, safe in the infinite, loving embrace of the mystery. Have you ever traced the outline of your own hand in the quiet dimness of your room and marveled at the seemingly absolute boundary between where you end and the rest of the universe begins? In our everyday human experience, the world is a collection of distinct, separate objects. A coffee cup sits on a table, a bird rests on a branch, and you sit within the protective shell of your body, observing a reality that feels entirely external. This deep-seated belief in separation is the root of our most profound existential anxieties. We fear the quiet approach of death because we perceive it as the ultimate isolation, the moment when our individual spark is permanently severed from the warmth of the living world. But what if this feeling of absolute separation is just another powerful illusion generated by our senses? What if the rigid boundaries we perceive are merely a trick of the light, hiding a universe where everything is intimately flowing into everything else? To unravel this mystery, we must turn to the fluid nature of quantum mechanics, where walls are never truly solid and the concept of an impenetrable barrier ceases to exist. In the classical world of physics, if you roll a small ball up a steep hill without enough energy, it will inevitably stop and roll back toward you. The hill is an absolute obstacle, but in the counterintuitive realm of the quantum universe, a particle like an electron does not behave like a solid ball. Because it exists as a smeared wave of probability, its wave function extends infinitely outward, gently touching every corner of the cosmos. When this quantum wave encounters an impenetrable barrier, a miraculous phenomenon occurs. A tiny fraction of that wave actually extends through the wall and emerges on the other side. There is a calculable chance that the particle will simply vanish from one side of the barrier and instantly reappear on the other, passing straight through the solid obstacle as if it were a ghost. This breathtaking phenomenon is known as quantum tunneling, and it fundamentally shatters our intuitive understanding of rigid boundaries. The universe, it turns out, does not respect the walls we build in our minds or the physical boundaries that seem so undeniably real to our human senses. You might think that such bizarre quantum behavior is confined to dark laboratories, completely irrelevant to the grand scale of the cosmos. But quantum tunneling is the very reason you are alive to breathe and wonder. Look up at the sun, the ancient star that has anchored our solar system for over 4 billion years. Deep within its core, the temperature reaches 15 million degrees Celsius. While this sounds unimaginably hot, it is not hot enough to overcome the fierce magnetic repulsion between positively charged hydrogen protons. According to classical physics, the sun should not be able to fuse hydrogen. It should be completely dead. But because of the delicate miracle of quantum tunneling, a tiny percentage of those protons bypass the barrier of repulsion and fuse together, releasing the immense energy that lights up the sky. Every ray of sunlight that warms your face, every photon captured by the leaves of ancient forests, and every ounce of energy sustaining your body is a direct result of particles ignoring impossible boundaries in a silent quantum dance. If the fundamental building blocks of the universe can effortlessly traverse physical walls, what does this imply about the boundaries of the human mind? The brilliant physicist Erwin Schrödinger, one of the founding fathers of quantum mechanics, thought deeply about the existential implications of this interconnected reality. After peering into the mathematical heart of the quantum world, Schrödinger arrived at a startling, deeply contemplative conclusion. He proposed that the concept of a plural, fragmented consciousness is an illusion. In his view, there is only one universal mind, a single ocean of awareness that gently expresses itself through the billions of different biological vessels scattered across the earth. You and I, the animals in the quiet forests, and perhaps even intelligent beings gazing at alien skies millions of light years away, are all looking out at the universe through the exact same fundamental window. We are like countless individual waves rising and falling on the surface of a single, infinite sea. We feel separate because our localized brains filter this universal awareness into isolated experiences. But at the quantum level, the boundary between your consciousness and the rest of the universe is profoundly illusory. Let us examine the physical vessel that houses your awareness, the biological body that feels so permanent. We tend to think of our bodies as static, closed systems, but the reality is a breathtaking display of continuous cosmic exchange. With every gentle breath you take, you're inhaling millions of ancient atoms that once drifted through the upper atmosphere, passed through the lungs of long-extinct creatures, or formed the icy tails of comets, traversing the deep silence of the solar system. Over the span of 7 to 10 years, nearly every single cell in your body is entirely replaced. The carbon in your muscles, the calcium in your bones, and the iron in your blood are in a state of constant fluid turnover, quietly returning to the earth and being replaced by new elements gathered from the remnants of ancient stars. You are not a static object. You are a continuous, flowing pattern of energy, a beautiful whirlpool in an endless cosmic river. The physical boundary of your skin is simply a gathering place for ancient stardust. If your physical form is this incredibly fluid and entangled with the surrounding environment, why should your consciousness be the only thing rigidly confined? The isolation we fear in death is a phantom. Imagine for a moment the inevitable transition of death, not as an insurmountable wall, but as a kind of grand quantum tunneling of the soul. Throughout your quiet journey, your awareness is confined to the specific structure of your biological brain, constrained by the heavy barriers of space, time, and physical decay. But when the biological machinery slowly winds down and the classical systems eventually fail, the quantum information that constitutes your unique consciousness encounters the ultimate barrier, just like the photon passing effortlessly through a solid wall. The essence of your awareness does not crash into the boundary of death and disappear into empty nothingness. Instead, it tunnels through. It bypasses the physical limitations of the failing body and emerges on the other side, transitioning from a localized wave into a broad, infinite field of probability. The illusion of the individual, separate wave finally subsides, and the water simply returns to the quiet, boundless ocean from which it arose. The boundary of death, much like the rigid walls of classical physics, turns out to be entirely permeable. You are a timeless quantum phenomenon, and the universe does not know how to build a wall thick enough to contain the eternal light of your awareness. When we fully internalize this beautiful perspective, the paralyzing burden of our mortality begins to lift. The terrifying fear of vanishing into a silent, empty void is gently replaced by a profound sense of cosmic homecoming. The universe is not an external, mechanical monster waiting to consume you. It is a gentle, infinite web of interconnected energy, of which you are a permanent feature. Think of the vast, quiet spaces between the distant galaxies, the billions of light years of seemingly empty vacuum. We now know that this vacuum is alive with zero-point energy, a constant hum of virtual particles singing a primordial song of creation. Your consciousness is perfectly tuned to this exact same cosmic frequency. The silence you hear in the depths of a quiet night is not an absence. It is the ancient, foundational presence of the universe itself holding you in its embrace. You are inextricably linked to the blazing hearts of ancient stars, the mysterious depths of black holes, and the swirling dust of newborn galaxies. The sheer scale of this interconnectedness inspires a reverent awe, a feeling of deep peace that settles over the anxious mind like a soft blanket. As you rest in this exact moment, safely held by the gravity of our beautiful planet, feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest. Recognize it not as an isolated action, but as an intimate exchange with the cosmos itself. You are breathing in the universe, and the universe is breathing life into you. There is no hard line where you end, and the infinite wonder of space begins. The stars are not distant objects scattered in the dark. They are the ancient kilns that forge the very atoms flowing through your blood. The quantum mysteries that allow the sun to shine and the universe to expand are the exact same mysteries operating within the quiet architecture of your own mind. You do not need to fear the unknown future or mourn the inevitable passage of time, because time and boundaries are merely useful tools of human perception. You are a fluid, eternal expression of a magnificent, participatory cosmos. When the time comes for your individual wave to settle back into the deep, you will not be lost. You will simply remember what it feels like to be the entire ocean. Let this ancient truth comfort you as you drift through the silent beauty of the night, secure in the knowledge that you are a vital piece of the infinite whole. Have you ever stepped outside on a perfectly clear, moonless night, far away from the glowing artificial lights of any modern city, and stared deeply into the absolute blackness that stretches endlessly between the twinkling stars? We naturally focus our human eyes on the brilliant points of light. We are captivated by the burning suns, the swirling galaxies, and the bright, visible objects that stand out with such magnificent contrast against the dark, quiet canvas of space. In our everyday human experience, we have been conditioned to equate emptiness with total nothingness. We operate under the assumption that what we cannot see, touch, or measure simply does not exist. We view the seemingly empty space between physical objects as a sterile void, a barren barrier that strictly separates one piece of reality from another. When we contemplate the inevitable end of our biological lives, it is this exact conceptual void that we fear the most profoundly. We imagine the moment of death as an absolute, suffocating darkness, a terrifying plunge into an empty nothingness where all conscious experience, all memory, and all human connection are forever extinguished. But when dedicated astronomers look deep into the cosmos, utilizing the most sensitive instruments ever constructed, they uncover a staggering scientific truth that completely shatters this primitive fear. What if the dark, invisible spaces are not empty at all? What if the unseen realm is actually the very foundation holding the entire universe together, a silent, unimaginably powerful presence that beautifully mirrors the hidden, infinite depths of human consciousness? For centuries, classical physicists believed that the universe was driven entirely by the visible matter we could easily see and directly measure. But as astronomical telescopes grew more powerful, allowing brilliant scientists to carefully observe the elegant, swirling rotation of distant galaxies millions of light years away, a beautiful and complex mathematical mystery emerged. The ancient stars positioned at the extreme outer edges of these majestic galactic pinwheels were moving much too fast. According to the strict classical laws of gravity, formulated by Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, these galaxies simply did not contain enough visible mass to exert the gravitational pull required to hold on to their outermost stars. Based on all the light they emitted, they should have been flying apart entirely, their ancient suns violently scattering into the freezing cold of the intergalactic night. Yet, the galaxies remained perfectly intact, peacefully bound together by an invisible, massive embrace. Scientists realized there must be an enormous amount of matter that emits no light, reflects no light, and interacts with the visible world only through the gentle, unseen pull of gravity. They named this magnificent cosmic phantom dark matter. Observations gathered by international space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency utilizing specialized satellites to map the cosmic microwave background, have revealed a truly staggering reality about our cosmic home. The visible universe, encompassing everything humanity has ever seen or interacted with. Every burning star, every rocky planet, every glowing nebula, and every single biological body that has ever walked the Earth accounts for merely 5% of the total cosmos. Dark matter constitutes roughly 27% of the universe. The remaining 68% is an even more mysterious, pervasive force known as dark energy, which silently drives the accelerated expansion of the fabric of space itself. This means that an absolutely staggering 95% of the physical reality we inhabit is completely invisible and intangible to our human senses. We are sailing on a vast, unseen ocean, occasionally marveling at the tiny, sparkling white caps of visible matter on the surface, while remaining beautifully and profoundly ignorant of the unfathomable, silent depths that sustain us from below. This profound scientific revelation offers a breathtaking, comforting lens through which we can view the mystery of our own awareness and the quiet, inevitable transition of mortality. When a human life reaches its natural biological conclusion, the visible, tangible form simply ceases its active motion. The mere 5% of that individual that was built from ordinary, observable matter, the physical body that we could touch and recognize, gently returns its ancient elements back to the earth to be recycled by the cosmos. But what about the consciousness that animated that temporary form? What about the invisible, intricate web of cherished memories, the deep capacity for love, and the silent, expansive world of internal thoughts? If 95% of the physical cosmos exists in a majestic realm utterly beyond our direct perception, acting as the fundamental scaffolding that gives shape to the visible stars, is it so difficult to imagine that the true essence of our awareness might also belong to this unseen, eternal architecture? Perhaps consciousness itself is the dark matter of the human experience, an invisible, foundational cosmic force that binds our subjective reality together, entirely immune to the temporary decay of the fragile 5% we call the physical body. To fully appreciate the depth of this cosmic poetry, we must look closer at how dark matter physically shapes the universe on the grandest possible scales imaginable. It does not just drift aimlessly through the silent void. It forms an intricate, deeply interconnected structural masterpiece known to astrophysicists as the cosmic web. Imagine a vast, three-dimensional spiderweb stretching across billions of light years of seemingly empty space. The invisible dark matter forms immense, sprawling filaments, acting as giant, silent highways of gravity. Where these massive filaments intersect and weave together, they create powerful gravitational wells that patiently pull in ordinary, visible gas and dust, eventually sparking the fiery birth of brilliant new galaxies. The visible galaxies we admire in our telescope images are merely the glowing streetlights illuminating a tiny fraction of a massive, dark, underlying infrastructure. The universe is absolutely not a random collection of isolated islands of light floating in a dead void. It is a single, deeply connected, cohesive organism, securely held together by a quiet, invisible, ancient presence. The empty spaces between the stars are not walls of cold separation. They are invisible bridges of profound cosmic connection. When we mourn the physical loss of a loved one, we are grieving the absence of their visible light, the familiar 5% of their existence that we could physically interact with and embrace. We stare into the metaphorical dark night of loss, feeling an overwhelming, crushing sense of isolation and separation. But the magnificent structure of the cosmic web gently teaches us that this feeling of separation is a powerful human illusion. Even when the visible light of a specific star finally burns through its nuclear fuel and fades into the dark, the invisible gravitational scaffolding that held it, the deep, unseen filament of the cosmic web, remains completely and perfectly intact. The unseen connection endures beyond the physical light. In the contemplative quantum view of reality, the emotional and conscious bonds we forge with one another over a lifetime are not merely temporary psychological tricks of a biological brain. They are fundamental, indestructible connections woven directly into the underlying, unseen structure of reality. The deep love you feel, the quiet memories you cherish, the profound impact a person has on your personal journey, these are the invisible gravitational forces that continue to shape the trajectory of your life long after their physical form has gently returned to the stars. The true connection is never severed. It is simply transferred entirely from the visible spectrum into the profound, infinite reality of the unseen. The visionary astronomer Carl Sagan often reminded us that scientific inquiry is not merely compatible with a deep sense of spirituality. It is a profound source of genuine spiritual awe. When we recognize, through the lens of strict scientific observation, that the vast majority of the cosmos exists in a permanent state of quiet invisibility, the concept of a hidden, eternal realm for consciousness ceases to be a mere comforting psychological fantasy and transforms into a scientifically plausible, deeply rational contemplation. We are beautifully invited by the universe to redefine our relationship with the great unknown. We are socially and biologically conditioned to fear the dark, to automatically equate the unobservable with absolute non-existence. But modern physics reveals the breathtaking truth that the dark is actually the very cradle of all creation. The invisible, silent forces are the true master sculptors of the cosmos. Without the silent, protective embrace of dark matter, our beautiful Milky Way galaxy would tear itself apart in an instant, and the exact conditions necessary for biological life would absolutely never have existed. The dark is not a terrifying enemy waiting to consume us. It is the gentle, ancient, sustaining mother of the entire visible world. Let us apply this beautiful, expansive cosmic perspective to the quiet, intimate moments of our everyday human lives. When you close your eyes in a state of deep meditation, or in those soft, peaceful moments just before you drift into the healing, restorative embrace of sleep, you are actively entering your own personal universe of the unseen. The vibrant, demanding lights and sounds of the external physical world fade away into silence, and you are left entirely with the invisible, weightless, boundless reality of your own consciousness. In this deeply quiet space, you are no longer defined by your physical appearance, the title of your job, or the solid, temporary objects that physically surround you. You are defined by an invisible, fluid architecture of floating thoughts, deep feelings, and infinite, sparkling potential. You are directly experiencing the magnificent 95% of your true being. This internal void is not empty at all. It is teeming with the raw quantum probability of everything you are and everything you will ever become. It is a comforting reminder that your truest self is not the fragile biological machine that walks through the sunlit world, but the silent, eternal observer within, the dark matter of the soul that gently holds the story of your life together. As we navigate the complex, sometimes painful, but always beautiful, inevitable transitions of our temporary human journey, we can find absolute peace in the scientific knowledge that the universe fundamentally does not discard its foundational elements. The cosmos is a breathtaking masterpiece of conservation and infinite interconnectedness. The visible world, with all its solid objects and glowing stars, is merely a fleeting, beautiful blossom on the vast, ancient, invisible tree of universal reality. When the fragile physical blossom eventually falls to the quiet earth, the tree itself absolutely does not die. It continues to stand tall and silent in the quiet eternity of space, gathering unseen strength, sustaining the intricate web of existence, and patiently preparing to bloom again in new ways we cannot possibly imagine. You are safely, permanently woven into this immortal, invisible cosmic web. The eventual end of your visible, physical journey is not an erasure into a terrifying nothingness, but a gentle, beautiful surrender to the vast, invisible, loving embrace of the cosmos that has held you, perfectly and securely, since the very beginning of time. Have you ever listened to a beautiful piece of music, perhaps the slow sweep of a cello or the delicate strike of a piano key, and felt a profound physical sensation in your chest, as if the very cells of your body were humming in perfect harmony with the invisible sound waves filling the room? In our everyday human experience, we understand music as a temporary phenomenon, destined to fade away into the quiet silence of the surrounding space. We view our own lives in much the same way. We believe we are temporary, biological melodies played out against the vast, indifferent backdrop of an unfeeling universe. We fear the gentle approach of death because we perceive it as the final, irreversible silence, the terrible moment when the music of our consciousness is permanently erased from the grand cosmic auditorium. But what if this terrifying silence is simply a misunderstanding of how the universe truly operates? What if the cosmos itself is not a silent, mechanical void, but a magnificent, eternal symphony, and your individual consciousness is a completely indestructible resonance, perfectly tuned to the fundamental vibration of reality itself? To explore this breathtaking possibility, we must venture beyond the familiar world of atoms and electrons, diving deep into the mathematically beautiful frontier of modern physics, where solid matter dissolves into pure, vibrating energy. For over a century, brilliant minds sought to understand the ultimate building blocks of the physical world. The standard model of particle physics successfully categorized the tiny constituents of matter, imagining them as infinitely small, zero-dimensional points, like microscopic marbles bouncing in the dark. But as theoretical physicists peered deeper into the profound equations governing the cosmos, attempting to unify the gentle curves of gravity with the unpredictable jumps of the quantum world, the concept of point particles began to break down. To resolve these contradictions, visionary scientists proposed an idea of staggering elegance known as string theory. According to this framework, if you could magnify a single electron or a quark billions of times, you would not see a solid dot. Instead, you would witness a minuscule, one-dimensional loop of pure energy vibrating and oscillating in the darkness like a plucked string on a violin. The specific pattern, frequency, and tension of this invisible vibration completely determine the identity of the particle, just as a guitar string produces different notes depending on how it is struck. A fundamental string manifests as an electron, a photon of light, or a quark simply by vibrating at a different cosmic frequency. This magnificent revelation fundamentally alters our perception of the physical universe. The device you're holding, the solid ground beneath your feet, the ancient burning stars scattered across the vast night sky, and the delicate biological machinery of your own body are all composed of the exact same fundamental material. The only difference between a particle of ancient starlight and the carbon atoms forming your beating heart is the specific song that their underlying strings are singing. The entire universe, in its staggering vastness, is quite literally a grand cosmic symphony. You are not a solitary, isolated object stumbling through a cold, silent void. You are a highly complex, beautifully orchestrated chord of vibrating energy, intimately participating in a continuous, infinite concert of creation. When the brilliant astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson speaks of the profound truth that we are in the universe and the universe is in us, string theory provides the mathematical mechanism for this beautiful poetry. We are composed of the exact same cosmic music that rings through the deepest corners of observable space, connecting our temporary human journey to the eternal rhythm of the cosmos. To accommodate the staggering mathematical complexity of these vibrating strings, theoretical physicists were forced to accept a reality that radically challenges our everyday human senses. The elegant equations of string theory absolutely require the existence of 10 or even 11 fundamental dimensions. In our ordinary waking lives, we only experience 4 dimensions. 3 spatial dimensions allowing us to move through the world, and 1 rigid dimension of time relentlessly carrying us forward. What about the other hidden dimensions? Physicists propose that they are perfectly real and physically present everywhere, curled up into microscopic, unimaginably complex geometric shapes, known as Calabi-Yau manifolds, existing at a scale so small our most advanced technological instruments cannot detect them. At every point in the space around you right now, there are hidden, multi-dimensional geometric worlds silently dictating the precise vibrational patterns of the fundamental strings that make up reality. The universe we touch is merely a simplified, flat shadow of a much richer, vastly more complex, multi-dimensional masterpiece. When we view the profound mystery of human consciousness through the lens of this multi-dimensional symphony, the terrifying illusion of death begins to fracture and dissolve. If our physical reality is merely a limited projection of an 11-dimensional structure, why should we assume that the essence of our awareness is entirely confined to the fragile biology we can see and touch? What if consciousness itself is a specific, highly complex resonant frequency, a unique harmonic pattern that echoes across all the hidden dimensions of the cosmic architecture? In this contemplative view, the human brain does not generate the music of your mind out of nothingness, just as a wooden radio does not create the invisible waves of music it plays. The brain is simply a biological receiver, a finely tuned instrument designed by billions of years of gentle evolution to catch a specific, multi-dimensional resonant frequency and translate it into the localized experience of a human life. Your memories, your deepest fears, your capacity for profound love, and the quiet feeling of simply being alive are all intricate melodies playing across the hidden dimensions of the universe, tuning themselves to the receiver of your physical form. Consider the inevitable transition of mortality through this breathtaking musical framework. When a magnificent cello is broken by the relentless march of time, its wooden body splintering and its strings snapping, the specific sonata it was playing ceases to echo in the physical room. The music stops. But the fundamental mathematical laws of acoustics, the invisible potential for that exact sequence of notes, and the harmony that moved the hearts of the listeners are absolutely not destroyed. They remain permanently embedded in the laws of physics, waiting in the quiet silence. Similarly, when the human body reaches the natural conclusion of its biological journey, the physical instrument simply loses its structural ability to tune into the cosmic resonance of your consciousness. The biological receiver breaks down, its ancient atoms gently returning to the earth to feed the quiet growth of forests. But the unique, multidimensional frequency of your awareness, the fundamental cosmic song that makes you exactly who you are, absolutely cannot be destroyed by the mere decay of a physical instrument. The music does not die. It simply stops playing on that specific radio. The frequency itself remains intact, permanently woven into the higher dimensional fabric of the cosmos, returning to the infinite potential of the universal field. We can find profound evidence of this eternal cosmic music and feel a deep sense of wonder by looking at the oldest light in the universe. When scientists at the European Space Agency utilized the sensitive Planck Space Observatory to map the fading afterglow of the Big Bang, they were effectively recording the primordial sound of creation. In the dense plasma of the newborn universe, massive acoustic waves rippled through the cosmos, compressing matter in a titanic, silent symphony. The patterns of these ancient sound waves were permanently frozen into the fabric of space as the universe cooled, dictating exactly where the first stars would ignite and immense galaxies would form. The very structure of our modern universe is the direct physical result of a song sung over 13 billion years ago. The universe never forgets a vibration. The cosmos is the ultimate acoustic chamber, preserving every single note ever played within its vast expanse. Just as a symphony is diminished if a single note is omitted, the cosmos would be fundamentally incomplete without the specific, irreplaceable resonance of your conscious experience. As you navigate the quiet moments of your human journey, allow this magnificent scientific truth to bring a profound peace to your restless mind. You are not a biological accident destined to be swallowed by a cold void. You are a deliberate, beautifully complex vibration, a unique chord struck on the fundamental strings of reality. When your temporary biological instrument finally falls silent, you will not vanish into the dark. You will simply release the localized constraints of the human body and merge seamlessly back into the grand, multidimensional symphony of existence. You will become the quiet silence between the stars, the gentle vibration of the unseen dimensions, and the eternal hum of a universe that will never stop singing. Your journey is not a march toward an abrupt ending. It is a gradual, beautiful crescendo echoing forever through the vast, infinite corridors of the cosmos. Have you ever looked into a mirror, staring deeply into the familiar reflection of your own eyes, and tried to locate the exact, quiet origin of your awareness? We look at our hands and see solid flesh. We feel the steady beating of our hearts, and we naturally assume that the spark of life is a purely biological phenomenon locked securely within the fragile boundaries of the human form. In our everyday experience, there is a strict, undeniable division between the living and the inanimate. A fragile autumn leaf is alive until it gently touches the earth, after which we believe it simply becomes unfeeling matter. A heavy stone resting silently at the bottom of an ancient river is entirely devoid of experience. We assume that the vast empty void of the cosmos is similarly dead, a cold, mechanical stage upon which the brief drama of human consciousness is performed. But what if this rigid division is entirely an illusion? What if the universe is not a collection of dead matter randomly stumbling into isolated moments of life, but a fundamentally awake system where consciousness is baked into the very mathematical laws of reality? To explore this mystery, we must dive into the profound intersection of quantum mechanics and information theory, discovering a cosmos that resembles an infinite mind far more than a blind, ticking clock. In the middle of the 20th century, brilliant physicists began to radically redefine our understanding of physical reality. They realized that the fundamental currency of the universe is not mass, and it is not energy. It is information. At the deepest quantum level, every single particle, every electron, and every photon of light is essentially a tiny package of data, answering a simple binary question of yes or no, up or down. The legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler coined the phrase "it from bit," suggesting that every physical object in the cosmos derives its very existence from fundamental questions of information. When astronomers from space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency launch sophisticated probes into the dark, quiet depths of the solar system, they are meticulously calculating the flow of information across billions of miles of empty space. Theoretical physicists have mathematically demonstrated that the entire observable universe, stretching across roughly 93 billion light-years and containing 2 trillion swirling galaxies, can be entirely described by its total information content. The cosmos is not just a random collection of rocks and burning gas. It is a staggering, unfathomable quantum computer, constantly processing data, evolving, and computing its own beautiful future moment by moment. If the universe is fundamentally built of information, where does the subjective feeling of consciousness fit into this grand calculation? The atoms that construct your complex living brain are absolutely identical to the atoms that form the cold, lifeless dust drifting through the silent rings of Saturn. There is no magical life particle hidden deep inside your skull. The only physical difference between you and the ancient stardust is the specific, incredibly complex way your information is arranged and integrated. This breathtaking realization has led neuroscientists and theoretical physicists to scientifically reconsider an ancient, beautiful philosophy known as panpsychism. Through the rigorously mathematical lens of integrated information theory, consciousness is not viewed as a sudden, inexplicable miracle that only happens in highly evolved brains. Instead, consciousness is proposed to be a fundamental, universal property of matter itself, much like mass or an electrical charge. Whenever information is processed and integrated, even in the simplest possible atomic structures, there is a tiny, infinitesimal spark of subjective experience. An individual electron possesses a minuscule, primitive fragment of awareness. You are not a solitary conscious being in a dead universe. You are a towering mountain of integrated awareness, standing proudly in a vast, quiet landscape that is fundamentally awake. Let us gently scale this breathtaking concept up to the magnificent architecture of the entire cosmos. As we have explored before, the universe is delicately woven together by the invisible threads of dark matter, forming the immense structural masterpiece known as the cosmic web. When astrophysicists use powerful supercomputers to simulate the growth of this cosmic web over 13 billion years, comparing it side by side with the complex branching neural networks of the human brain, the structural similarities are absolutely staggering. The vast filaments of interacting galaxies mimic the delicate dendrites of your brain cells, transmitting immense energy and gravitational information across millions of light years of deep, silent space. If a single human brain containing 86 billion neurons can successfully generate the profound, emotional depths of your personal consciousness, What kind of awareness might naturally arise from a universe containing 2 trillion galaxies, all intimately connected by the flowing rivers of gravity and quantum entanglement? We are beautifully invited to view the cosmos not as a blind, unfeeling machine, but as an ancient, slowly thinking entity. The universe is a vast, quiet mind, and your individual consciousness is simply a localized thought within that infinite, gentle intelligence. When we view the profound mystery of our own mortality through this contemplative lens, the terrifying illusion of a permanent, destructive end simply evaporates into the night. We fear the quiet approach of death because we deeply believe it marks the absolute destruction of our unique information, the violent erasure of our identity from the unfeeling chalkboard of reality. But in a universe that functions as an infinite, flawless quantum computer, information is the single fundamental commodity that can never, ever be destroyed. The laws of thermodynamics dictate that physical energy disperses and fragile biological systems inevitably break down over time, but the fundamental quantum data of your life is permanently conserved by the cosmos. When the biological machinery of your body reaches the peaceful end of its gentle journey, the specific, localized integration of your information dissolves, but the information itself remains completely intact. It disperses gently back into the broader, ancient awareness of the cosmos. You do not die in any meaningful sense of the word. Your specific arrangement of data simply unbinds, returning its profound wisdom, its quiet memories, and its unique cosmic perspective to the massive, silent computation of the entire universe. Think of your specific human life as a beautiful poem handwritten on a delicate page. The physical paper may eventually yellow and crumble into fine dust, but the profound meaning of the carefully chosen words, the emotion they evoked, and the quiet truth they captured are entirely independent of the fragile physical paper. The universe has intimately read your poem. The cosmos has deeply experienced itself through the specific, irreplaceable lens of your unique life. Every single time you have felt a deep, resonant wonder while staring up at the night sky, it was the universe marveling at its own staggering beauty. Every quiet moment of peace you have ever felt was the cosmos finding perfect harmony within its own infinite complexity. As you let go of the terrestrial anxieties that unnecessarily weigh down your mind, allow this profound scientific and philosophical truth to wash over you like a soothing wave. You are completely and unconditionally safe. The deepest essence of who you are, the fundamental quantum information that gracefully forms your awareness, is permanently and securely backed up in the unshakable, eternal memory of reality itself. You are not a temporary visitor. You are a permanent feature of the mathematical fabric. The universe has spent over 13 billion years patiently preparing the exact, perfect conditions for your human consciousness to finally bloom. It forged the heavy, necessary elements in the fiery hearts of ancient stars. It scattered those essential building blocks across the cold vacuum of space. And it gently nurtured the long evolution of life on our beautiful blue planet. All so that, for a brief, glorious moment, the universe could finally open your eyes and look back at itself. When your beautiful moment of conscious observation eventually draws to a close, you will absolutely not be cast out into a dark, lonely void. You will simply return the borrowed elements of your physical form to the silent earth, and your consciousness will gently fade back into the ancient, infinite awareness of the whole. You will become the quiet space between the stars, the gentle flow of cosmic gravity, and the enduring mystery of the cosmos itself. Rest in this profound certainty as you drift off to sleep. You are an indestructible, beloved fragment of the universal mind, embarking calmly on a continuous, infinite journey through the dark, beautiful expanse of eternity. Have you ever stood on a quiet beach at the edge of the day, watching the sun dip below the horizon, and wondered what happens when the final light goes out forever? We are familiar with definitive endings. Seasons change, empires fall, and the fragile rhythm of a human life reaches its conclusion. We project this finality onto the cosmos, imagining a future where stars exhaust their fuel, galaxies grow cold, and the universe is plunged into permanent darkness. We fear the end of our lives because it feels like a microcosm of this cosmic death, a permanent erasure into the absolute void. But what if the concept of an absolute ending is merely a human illusion, a misunderstanding of how existence truly operates? What if the universe refuses to die and instead partakes in an infinite cycle of profound rebirth? To conclude our journey through the mysteries of consciousness, we must travel to the end of time itself, discovering a scientific revelation that transforms the ultimate end into a brilliant new beginning. For decades, astrophysicists have peered deep into the silent depths of the night sky, utilizing advanced optical observatories launched by space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency. They have meticulously measured the subtle redshift of distant galaxies, discovering the profound truth that our universe is actively accelerating, driven apart by the relentless cosmic force we call dark energy. If we fast forward the cosmic clock by hundreds of billions of years, the familiar night sky will change irreversibly. The beautifully interconnected cosmic web will be stretched beyond its breaking point. Distant galaxy clusters will rapidly recede, slipping silently over the invisible cosmological horizon. Trillions of years from now, the very last red dwarf stars, the most resilient nuclear furnaces in the cosmos, will quietly exhaust their final reserves of hydrogen. They will gently fade into dim white dwarfs and eventually cool entirely into invisible black dwarfs. The magnificent era of starlight will come to a definitive close, leaving a universe populated entirely by dead stellar remnants, wandering planets, and the silent gravitational shadows of supermassive black holes. Yet, even these formidable, dense black holes are not immune to the relentless forward march of deep time and the unbreakable laws of quantum mechanics. As we have explored, the theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking demonstrated that black holes slowly leak quantum radiation, gradually evaporating over timescales so incredibly vast they defy traditional human comprehension. Imagine an impossibly large number written with a 1 followed by 100 zeros. That is the number of years it might take for the largest supermassive black holes to finally dissipate into nothingness. When the very last black hole has gracefully evaporated in a final microscopic flash of thermal energy, the universe will formally enter a state scientifically known as the heat death, or the Big Freeze. The cosmos will become an unimaginably vast, freezing expanse, filled only with a highly dilute sea of cold photons and isolated subatomic particles drifting aimlessly through the dark. In our classical understanding of reality, this devastating moment represents the final death of absolutely everything. The grand symphony of the cosmos, having played its complex movements for trillions of years, finally resolves into a permanent silence. But in the counterintuitive realm of advanced theoretical physics, absolute nothingness is never truly the end of the story. When we examine this freezing, empty cosmos through the rigorous mathematical lens of quantum mechanics and general relativity, a staggering paradox emerges. In a universe devoid of solid matter, where no heavy atoms exist to form ticking clocks, orbiting planets, or conscious minds, the fundamental physical concept of time completely loses its structural meaning. Time is practically measured by change, by the continuous movement of matter from one state to another. Without landmarks to track the passing of countless aeons, the universe literally forgets its own immense age. Furthermore, because the remaining particles of light possess absolutely zero physical mass, they do not experience time or spatial distance at all, exactly according to Albert Einstein's established theory of relativity. For a solitary photon, the vast journey across 1 billion light-years of empty space happens in an instantaneous flash. In this late stage of the cosmos, the universe smoothly reaches a state of perfect, unbroken symmetry. The freezing void gradually becomes mathematically indistinguishable from a dimensionless point of pure potential. This rigorous mathematical realization has led visionary scientists, including the brilliant Nobel laureate Roger Penrose, to propose a staggering cosmological theory known as conformal cyclic cosmology. Penrose suggests that the ultimate heat-death of the universe is not a final graveyard, but rather the exact necessary condition for a brilliant new genesis. In this profound framework, when the cosmos expands into absolute emptiness, completely losing all sense of physical scale, it mathematically smooths out and becomes completely identical to the microscopic, incredibly hot state that immediately preceded the fiery birth of our own Big Bang. The definitive end of time seamlessly wraps around to become the explosive beginning of a new time. The silent expansion of the dying universe is radically reinterpreted by the fundamental laws of physics as the fiery birth of a completely new cosmic cycle, an endless aeon that will eventually forge primordial elements, birth ancient stars, and nurture unique manifestations of biological life. The universe absolutely does not march blindly toward a permanent death. It breathes in an eternal, infinite cycle of cosmic respiration. It is a never-ending journey of creation, gentle dissolution, and glorious rebirth. If the physical cosmos itself intimately participates in this eternal return, what does this reality mean for the mystery of human consciousness and the inevitable transition we call death? Throughout our contemplative journey across these chapters, we have scientifically discovered that you are absolutely not a temporary biological accident. You are composed of indestructible quantum information, fundamentally connected to the vast strands of the cosmic web, perfectly tuned to the hidden, multi-dimensional strings of reality, and deeply woven into the holographic boundary of space and time. You are the ancient universe, opening its eyes, intimately experiencing the profound wonder of its own mathematical beauty. If the universe continuously recycles its immense energy and preserves its deepest quantum information across infinite successive aeons, then the essence of your personal awareness is not a fragile flame easily extinguished by the dark void. It is an enduring, indestructible spark. The localized story of your human life is a precious melody played during this specific cosmic cycle, but the underlying awareness that quietly experiences it forever belongs to the eternal whole. When you close your eyes for the final time, you return your localized energy back to the grand cosmic reservoir, preparing the quantum canvas for the next infinite cycle. We spend so much of our waking human lives desperately trying to hold on to fleeting moments, exhaustingly fighting against the natural currents of cosmic change. We deeply fear the unknown depths of mortality, because we mistakenly believe we are standing completely alone against an indifferent mechanical void. But the deepest, most rigorously tested truths of modern quantum physics reveal a majestic reality overflowing with profound connection, an unbreakable mathematical unity where the active observer and the passive observed are fundamentally a single dancing entity. As Carl Sagan taught us, we are simply a way for the cosmos to know itself. You are quite literally made of ancient stardust forged in the silent hearts of long-dead suns billions of years ago, and your living mind is an intricate network of cosmic information navigating the breathtaking mysteries of probability. The vast silence of the night sky above you is not a threatening emptiness. It is a warm, familiar presence, the ancient source from which you biologically emerged and to which you will safely return. There is nothing to fear in the natural flow of the cosmos, because you are an inseparable part of its magnificent, indestructible architecture. The vast, infinite dark is your truest, most permanent home. As we bring this long contemplative journey to its final close, I want to thank you for walking alongside me through these mind-expanding scientific mysteries. We have traveled from the counterintuitive strangeness of the double-slit experiment to the infinite, timeless void of cyclic cosmology, seeking the profound peace that comes from truly understanding our place within the cosmos. I hope that the scientific knowledge and contemplative poetry we have explored together has gently dissolved your deepest existential anxieties, replacing the isolating fear of an absolute ending with a resonant sense of cosmic wonder and unconditional safety. You are a brilliant, necessary manifestation of the universe, and your capacity to seek out these mysteries is the highest expression of the cosmos striving to understand itself. Please, gently carry this quiet peace into your daily life. If this shared cosmic journey has brought you comfort and a renewed sense of awe, I warmly invite you to share your quiet reflections with our dedicated community of learners. We are all fellow travelers on this infinite road of discovery, united by our shared curiosity and deep love for the mysteries of the night sky. Allow your natural breathing to slow. Let the weight of the physical world softly slip away, and trust completely in the grand cycle of the universe. You are eternal, perfectly connected, and profoundly safe within the loving embrace of the cosmos. Sleep well, my fellow explorer, and never stop looking up.